It's the first time I'm ever speaking publicly in 70. The funny thing is that all the Rabbanim was sitting here. Everything I know I heard from them, so it doesn't really make sense that I should be one talking, but anyway, shame. As I get this. Just the memories and things that I remember, starting off when I was a kid, growing up in London, Tashin Lamed Beis, I was learning by Reb Yisroel Levine all of a sudden. He was our Malamed. And I heard the koch that they're getting ready to celebrate the Rebbe's 70th birthday. And he made a chesem with us, and we chazed over then, l'kovid Yud Alef Nissan, 70 amudim. That's what we had. So we didn't even have a 70 blot. I was 10 years old then. But we had 70 amudim, so we chazed over 70 amudim. L'kovid Yud Alef Nissan. And after, the Stam was after Pesach already, after Yud Alef Nissan for sure, but the Stam was after Pesach. And we were told that all those who did something for Yud Alef Nissan, so the Rebbe is sending them a Tanya, and in the Tanya is going to be also a letter from the Rebbe. There's also a younger class, and they got a Siddur. So each of us got a Tanya, and the older class and the younger class got a Siddur from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said that they should write in the name of each Talmud inside on the letter, so they should feel that the letter is personally written to them. Yud Alef Nissan, I'm going to go through the years fast. I wasn't here most of the Yud Alef Nissans, but Yud Alef Nissan Lamed Beis, as you know, then the Rebbe was Meyasid the Ein Alef Meistis. It was a very big koch. The Rebbe even said then, Yudei Stamos, 3 months later, Gwen Vayihi Mishloish Chadashim from Yud Alef Nissan. So the Rebbe said everybody who did something for the Yud Alef, for the Ein Alef Meistis, should come, and the Rebbe gave them all a chaim according to the number of how many meistis they set up. I'm not going to go through details now. It's Hagbal in Zman mit gesagt. Also a reminder that Purim before Yud Alef Nissan, the Sichas were well known, the Rebbe said that even though usually when somebody gets a present, you don't ask for what present you want. But since the present has to be according to the Ratzon of the one who's receiving the present, therefore it has to be Dafka in the Inyan, which the Rebbe wants, which is the Inyan of the Asifa and Teira and the Mitzvahs, and Dafka in such a Eichen. Let's say after Lamed Beis, Tashlam Beis, Tashlam Gimel already got used to that Yud Alef Nissan is already a Kavudik Fabrengen, and so on for many years. The Rebbe Fabrenged, in actual fact, every year Yud Alef Nissan from Tashin Lamed Aleph until Tashin Mem Hey. It was every year from bringing. And so a little highlight which I remember from the years as going along. A lot of them I heard in the hookups. I wasn't even here, but I remember as kids used to koch sich, what is the new niggin for this Yud Alef Nissan. Tashin Lamed Beis was the Tashin Lamed Gimel. I remember the hookup, and there was at one point I remember, besides the Asiyim, Ilani Srak and Ilani Paris, what's going to be in Elam Habad, but besides that, there was the mimer, the Rebbe said, without singing a niggin before the mimer. I remember the shock, well, I was in London, but the Rebbe starts a mimer, everybody stands up suddenly, there was no niggin before. So I mentioned 1 or 2 points from each Yud Alef Nissan. Tash Lamed Hey, Lamed Dalet I don't remember. Lamed Hey. So I remember after the first Sicha, I hear someone singing V'lekim Malki Mikedem. Later I realized after I learned who everybody is, it must have been Reb Shlomo Kunin. He got up and he started singing V'lekim Malki Mikedem, and the whole Eilam joined in. It sounded like it was the first time everybody learned the niggin. I don't know, because he sung the whole niggin once by himself, and then the Eilam joined in. And it was interesting. The second Sicha, the Rebbe explained the pasuk V'lekim Malki Mikedem. There's a maimer dachsmer v'higadet then. Tashlam Medvov was the Rebbe spoke about a rich man who had then died. Goy, his name is Yuz, and how his Ashiras, Dafka was his prison. You see, he was afraid to go anywhere, afraid to have contact with anybody, because maybe they'll kill him for his money. So you see how Ashiras, if it's used in the wrong way, could chas v'shalom be a person's downfall instead of being a schus for a person. So you also have to have a schus to when a person has Ashiras, you should use it in the right way. Tosh Lamed Zayin was Shnas HaShivim V'Chamish, was 75 years for the Rebbe's birthday. And that was actually the last time that they gave matanas to the Rebbe during the Farbrengen. So the between the sichos was actually very long. I think it was half hour between the first few sichos of Nigunim, while people went over to the Rebbe and giving a different kind of presents. There's videos of, you see somebody came over, give the Rebbe a big picture of the Rebbe, a painting, and then he made a hagba, he picks it up and showed it to the whole Eilam. It also was 100 years then to the Hemshech L'Kocha, so the Maimer that Rebbe said then was L'Kocha. Toshel Lamed Ches, there was a big koch in Eretz Yisrael. I was learning that in Eretz Yisrael. There was a big koch about the Chanukas Habayis of Beis Menachem. And they wrote in to the Rebbe, they asked the Rebbe to come to Eretz Yisrael for the Chanukas Habayis. At that time, the only Moisid which the Rebbe gave permission that should have his name. So they asked permission for, and the Rebbe gave his permission to call it on his name. So they asked the Rebbe to come for the Chanukas Habayis. So I remember the Chutzlers, the Gebachrim, went over to a mental futfas. He asked him, do you think that the Rebbe is actually going to come if we could go home, for before Pesach, before Yud Alef Nissan, if we could come home, or should we stay in Eretz Yisrael? So our mental says, don't worry, you can go home. You can be sure that the Rebbe is not coming as a with Mashiach, yeah, but not. It's actually Tosh Lamed Ches. The Rebbe finished the Farbrengen in a very amazing way. That the Rebbe said, Lashona Haba B'Yerushalayim, gave like a hachroza, Lashona Haba B'Yerushalayim, at the end of the Farbrengen. Lamed Ches, I don't remember anything, nothing stands out in my mind right now. Tosh Mem Aleph, I heard Reb Yisroel Noach told me that they asked the Rebbe, because of that year was Erev Pesach Shchal B'Shabbos, so you have one day less between Yud Alef Nissan and Pesach. So they asked the Rebbe if the Rebbe could farbrengen the night before Yud Alef Nissan instead of like till then, it was always the night after Yud Alef Nissan. So the Rebbe agreed, and the Rebbe farbrengen early Yud Alef Nissan, and then the Rebbe farbrengen Motzi Yud Alef Nissan, and then the Rebbe farbrengen the next night early Yud Gimel Nissan, and then Shabbos itself was farbrengen. It's 4 farbrengens in 1 week. And the main focus of all the Farbrengens was the Sefer Torah of Tzivos Hashem. Every child should have a letter in the Sefer Torah, and they should begin writing the Sefer Torah. The second night, the Motzi Yud Alef Nissan, the Rebbe said, began with the B'sura Teva, that they began writing the Sefer Torah in the Bein HaChaimes and Ir Atika or Yerushalayim. Toshim and Beis, Hashteitzach was a big Hisayrus for Shnas HaShmeinim. I will say, in my mind, I remember more the tumult about traveling to the Rebbe more than the Hisayrus that I personally, I don't remember the Hisayrus of how much people undertook to do L'Kovid as a present for the Rebbe, but everybody was excited about traveling to the Rebbe L'Kovid Yud Alef Nissan. So Rosh Chodesh Nisan was a rally for Tzivos Hashem, and the Rebbe said at the end of the rally that he wants to say that all the people who come, want to plan to come for Yud Alef Nissan, this is when you come for Yitas Kislev or different Yom Pagra, you come al Cheshbon from the Bala Simcha, whoever's day, special day it is. So if you come Yud Alef Nissan, the Rebbe says what he wants is everybody should stay at home, and the money which you dedicated to travel to the Rebbe, instead you should use that money either half to give it to tzedakah, and half you should use it to make your Pesach better than it would have been before. So most of the people, or a lot of people, didn't travel to the Rebbe for Yud Alef Nissan. Some people had already bought tickets, and there was a big shturim about it. And in London, they decided to make a video hookup, which was the first time they made a video hookup overseas. The cable, the Farbrengen should be on cable TV, had just begun, on Yud Kislev Tashim Aleph, just a year before that. It was the first time they were able to see if Fabrengen Ever Liyam was mamash a meridig thing. Remember in London, Beis Lubavitch was full, and they came over from, a bus came in from Manchester, and I think some people came even from Brunoise, if I'm not mistaken. It was a big chiddush, and we were able to see the Rebbe live during the Yud Alef Nissan Fabrengen. Just by the way, in case who's ever interested, it cost then £9.50 every minute. We had it on for like 2 hours. After 2 hours, they went around to make another Magnus. They managed to have for another hour, but that was it. The Fabrengen itself was 6 hours. And after 6 hours, okay, the biggest surprise, the Rebbe announced at the end of the Fabrengen, he's going to give out Tanyas to every single person who came as a Karas HaTov for coming to the Fabrengen. And the Rebbe gave out Tanyas until Mamash 6 or 6:30 in the morning. So after 6 hour Fabrengen, the Rebbe continued to give out Tanyas for another 6 hours. For another 3 hours, I'm sorry, till 6 o'clock. Tashim and Gimel was weiter, there was a Fabrengen, there was already Seder Masudar every year, there's Fabrengen. One of the Nyanim, the Rebbe spoke then about a rich man who had a yacht. And on the yacht, he was asking the Rav HaChovel, the captain, if he knows which way is Mizrach. So he doesn't have to drive the ship. No, he wants to know which way he has to daven, which that had such a pu'ula that if even on a goy, when he sees that such a rich man understands that he has to daven to the Eibush, to the Kol Yochel, and the Rebbe was madgish from this, the Indian of Sheva Mitzvah Ben Noach, which was a very sturm in the first years, the mems. The early mems, I should say. Toshim Mem Daled, the highlight was at the end, the Rebbe gave out Tanyas, but this time the Rebbe said that it should be 50 times faster than before. So instead of one person giving it out, the Rebbe said they'll give it out through the Koil. And therefore, since there's Be'erech 50 Yungalite learning in the Koil, so it'll be given out 50 times as fast. And the Rebbe waited until every single Yungaman was by each door, and they had the Tanyas, and then the Rebbe said, "Bazei can again nemen mein Tanya." So I heard from Yungaman who was zeicha to give out right here next to this door, as the Rebbe was going out of Fabrengen. He told me he heard the Rebbe's voice. He didn't hear what the Rebbe said, so he's asking people around, what did the Rebbe say? Nobody knew, those who were next to him. He was already giving out Tanyas. So the Rebbe walks up to him and stops. So he didn't understand. So he thought maybe the Rebbe wants to see how he's giving out Tanyas. So he continued to give out Tanyas. And so Leibel Groner went over to him and said, the Rebbe wants, you should give him a Tanya. So he gave the Rebbe a Tanya, and then he gave the Rebbe $1. All the Yungalite went through the Rebbe first. The Rebbe gave each one a pack of dollars to give out together with the Tanya. So he gave the Rebbe $1. So the Rebbe took the $1, went like this with his fingers to show that he has really $2, not one, and he put both inside his pocket. And then the Rebbe went out. As the Rebbe went inside the car, so he saw, was a lady, I think, or he saw someone, so wasn't holding a Tanya, so the Rebbe picked up his Tanya from inside the car, like to show, do you have a Tanya? Tashim Mem was a big shturim of Siyam Rambam. Now those few years from Tashim Mem Beis until Mem Daled, the Rebbe every year was ma'ir that the people should not spend money to come to the Rebbe for Yud Alef Nissan. Yud Alef Nissan is just before Pesach and a time to stay home. Tashim Mem was the only time after that the Rebbe did not say they should stay home. L'chayr, the official reason was the Siyam Rambam, because that was the first Siyam Rambam. And the Rebbe made a big Siyam, it was a big shturim, and L'Poyel, that was the last Fabrengen on Yud Alef Nissan. Tashim Mem Vav, the way the Bachram was speaking at the place because of the Kitru, because of the court case of the Sfarim, whatever, they said L'chayr, Bachram were theorizing that that's the reason why the Rebbe didn't Fabrengen Yud Alef Nissan, whatever. Yedei Das Elyon, but that was what they were talking about. But the bracha, they eventually gave the Rebbe a bracha next to his room, and Ganed Natachten. And after that was a very long bracha from the Rebbe. And during the bracha, the Rebbe said also, he's going to give out also, since it's Me'asher Shmeina Lachmai, because Yud Alef Nissan is the Nasi of Asher, so he's going to give out to every single person, Anoshim Noshim Mataf, he's going to give out $1. Sound like Me'asher Shmeina Lachmai, that's the present which the Rebbe is giving out now, $1 to every single person. Simni Toshim Mem Zayin was also a bracha. The Shabbos Yud Alef Nissan was a big surprise. It was then two Maimarim, Maimer Kein Sich. It was two Maimarim on that Shabbos. It was one of the Maimarim Shtolzach on the pasuk of the Rebbe's Kapitel of that year. Toshim Mem Ches, there was in the house where there was a Sicha both nights of Yud Alef Nissan. I remember the Rebbe saying, Anyway, Me'ayin Yovi Ezri, Me'ayin, so Chassidim used to say that Ayin is Rosh Hashanah Yud Alef Nissan. So there I mentioned the name of Me'ayin. Tashim Mem Tes, the Rebbe gave out the Kuntra Savis Yisrael, but only how many there were there. It seemed like the Rebbe emptied out the box which was in his room for so many years, a special print which the Rebbe made for to give out to Mashpim. And the Rebbe gave it out then, Yud Alef Nissan, and whoever got, or as a lot of people said, those who got it probably needed it, because there was Gefährliche pushing. People realized it's not enough, and they brought another box from Kahos, whatever was in there, but versteht sich wasn't enough for the whole kahal. And then the Rabbi Grona announced that whatever, now everybody could come up to get stocker from the Rebbe. That was also for kids under Bar Mitzvah. The Kuntra Savas Yisrael was only for over Bar Mitzvah. The Shabbos, actually, Erev Yud Alef Nissan, was very freilich, the Nigan Shir Mizmer, and the Rebbe spoke a lot about that pasuk also. Very, the mood by the Eilam was very, very strong. I guess, the year after Chav Beis Shvat, the Eilam was very nisair on the Nigan Shir Mizmer, and the fact that the Chlal, the Indian of Yud Alef Nissan, the Rebbe is another year with us, and so on. Tafshin Nun, the Rebbe gave out a Maimer in his house. It was a bracha, the bracha was in the Rebbe's house, and then the Rebbe gave a Maimer in his house. I remember somebody Fabring afterwards says, this is the only time that the Rebbe actually gave out his own Maimer until then. It was the first time that the Rebbe gave out a Maimer to every single person, his own Maimer. It happened once before, but that was just the Shluchim. You hear the Rebbe gave out a Maimer, his own Maimer to everybody. The Eibusher will zeicher sein, that will zeicher zu zem sich bekorv mamish und der Rebbe dolle mato, wo ich allein al chaim.